Welcome to Chamber Talk, brought to you by North Orange County Chamber, where we explore the stories and insights of leaders, business owners and CEOs from various sectors who are making a difference in our community and region. Whether you're tuning in via podcast or joining us via video, we're glad to have you here. So welcome to Chamber Talk. I'm your host, Andrew Gregson, and I'm excited to sit down today with Paddy O, Executive Director of Cool OC. Thank you very much for coming on today, Patty.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So we met a couple of years ago, didn't we, up at Edison, and we've been to lots of events together. Obviously, having you on Chamber Talk is really important because you do valuable work here in the county. But before we launch into everything you wanted to do, we really wanted to learn a little bit about your career journey of how it got to you to where you are today.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I went to UCI. That's when I first came to Orange County, and I studied social science initially because I wanted to do community work. But when I started to think about what kind of job I actually wanted to do, I thought, I don't know if being a teacher is going to make me the money that I want to make. So growing up, our family was always kind of tight on money. And so I was really motivated to, do well career-wise, financially. And so I went into the business world. And after several years there, I landed at a company where I was brand director for licensed Harley Davidson products.
Right.
So for most of my career, I dealt with biker jewelry.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you say biker jewelry, I'm assuming that's because, it's jewelry for men, is it? Is that the idea of that? Or?
Well, we had the license to distribute Harley Davidson licensed jewelry.
Wow.
So that's what I mean by biker jewelry.
Wow.
And so I managed the wholesale distribution, the licensing relationship with Harley Davidson. And we distributed the jewelry worldwide to bike dealerships all over the world.
So I'm assuming it was their official branding type thing. Is that part of that, right?
It was licensed. We paid them royalties.
Right.
Did it with their cooperation and permission. So even though I was in the sales capacity, I wasn't really a biker myself, but I just ended up in that industry. Went to all the major bike rallies. Been to Sturgis 5 times.
Wow.
So it was very interesting work because I got to meet people all over the world, travel all over the U.S.
Right.
Got some really great business experience. But ultimately, I just found that it wasn't really fulfilling.
Right.
Eventually I wanted to go back to community work.
Okay.
After I had got some experience, had a little bit of success, you start thinking, what more do I want to do? And then I was kind of forced to make a change because in the first round of trade wars in 2019, I got laid off. And so all of our jewelry was manufactured overseas.
Okay.
And so it really affected our business.
Right.
And then, of course, the pandemic hit. So
of course.
I was kind of forced to re-examine, what do I want to do?
And during the pandemic, everybody has their own little story. So how did it affect you? How did it affect you and your family?
Well, so I had the double whammy because right before it started, I believe it was around 2019, I got laid off.
Right.
And then because the economy wasn't doing well, it was hard to find another job. So I just continued to do my volunteer work, my advocacy work in the environment, made some connections there, just did it on a volunteer basis. And
then is that how it led you into Cool OC, or was it a little bit of a gap there?
Yeah, I mean, there was, I was just navigating the pandemic for a while like everybody else.
Right.
But it was through those connections in that volunteer and advocacy work that I was able to connect with somebody in the sustainability department in the city of Irvine. And they tapped me to be a program manager for the Cool Irvine program.
Well, that's cool.
So that's how I kind of got my foot in the door.
Right.
After lots of effort, you do hear sometimes the people matters.
Yeah.
It didn't turn out that way initially, but eventually it did work out that way for me.
And then why that side? Sort of, why the energy side opposed to, I don't know, something different?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of social causes that interest me. I've always volunteered a lot when, I was a student in high school. But I remember the coursework that I took at UCI, in the early 2000s, just to date myself. It just really left an impression on me. And then I realized now that I have kids, all that climate action that we talked about that was needed when I was in university, I hadn't seen a lot of progress.
Right.
And I started to get concerned for my kids' future. That I felt like we weren't doing enough to protect the environment for future generations.
Right.
So while there's many things that I care about, it's really one of the most important things to me.
That totally makes sense. And obviously it makes sense why you oozed into Cool OC.
Mm-hmm.
So when you first started, what were some of the sort of like challenges or the things that you saw as you first took over the reins there?
Yeah. So, in my middle age, trying to transition careers wasn't really easy because on paper, all my experience was business experience.
Sure.
And business people want business people. Community workers want people with experience in that sector.
Right.
And so that's why I almost feel, I joke that I had to create my own nonprofit to give myself a job.
That makes sense.
I was competing with a lot of young kids,
right.
Who had the educational background
Sure.
and they're younger, and I'm trying to break into a new industry, middle-aged. And so, but what I found was that a lot of my business experience really helped me.
Oh, 100%.
Because even running a community organization, it's a lot like a business.
It is a business, really, isn't it?
Right. I have to have a product that resonates with people. I have to market myself. I have to raise money.
It's all the same stuff.
So some of the stuff I was trying to get away from ended up needing to do again.
Sure.
And then I found that some of my business experience was helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
And what is the main, if you could sum it up, because I'm sure it's quite decent, but what's your main mission towards Cool OC?
So, just to kind of explain the transition.
Sure.
After I worked on that joint project with the city of Irvine, we created Cool OC so that we could do the work in all Orange County cities.
Nice,
so now it's a separate nonprofit, but we still work in partnership with the city of Irvine.
Right.
And our mission is to share about the pressing challenges of climate change, and offers events, programs, a community for people to learn about sustainable living and bring them closer to the environment so that they can, work to protect it.
So going back to that, with obviously it was a program from, within the city of Irvine, was that something that you had brought to the council? Was it they were thinking about it and they were looking? How did it originally sort of like merge into something?
Oh, the city was already looking at the program.
Right.
They joined a Cool City Challenge, and Irvine, Petaluma, and Los Angeles were chosen. So the city initiated it with the support of a lot of community activists. And so, and then somebody that I knew there encouraged me to apply for the position. And that's how I got connected.
And what sorts of things were they looking at when you first started hitting the ground? What types of areas were they really focusing on?
Yeah. So they started a Cool Block program, and that was to train neighborhood leaders to lead neighborhood groups that together they would meet and learn about sustainable living. Everything from energy efficiency, water efficiency, emergency preparedness. And the whole goal was trying to move the city towards carbon neutrality. That was the goal. Now we've kind of diversified that. We still do have the Cool Block program, but we found it to be a heavy lift for volunteers to run 8 meetings, and we just made it a little bit more easy for everybody to participate.
Right.
So we found so many students were interested, so we've added things like youth initiatives, neighborhood block parties, things that people could just attend and, enjoy and learn and not have to do so much themselves. So we just try to find a lot of opportunities for people to plug in, to learn, to connect with other people who care about the environment as they do, and to kind of foster the next generation of leaders, to equip them with the skills to be climate leaders in their community.
And what types of things can folks do to be more climate aware?
Yeah. I say it's different for everybody.
Right.
You know, even among people, environmental activists, some say, oh, it has to all be on government. It has to all be on big business, right? And then others are like, it's so funny because when I tell people I'm in this field, they always look at me and say, I recycle, you know?
I like you're guilty of something.
And it's really not so much about what people have to do.
Right.
I think that's how people saw the environmental movement before. I have to be doing this. I have to be doing that, right? And what I always tell people is do what you feel inspired to do.
Okay.
Not something that feels like a chore.
Okay.
Because we all have different resources, financial abilities, different demands on our time.
Sure.
And I just tell people it's different for everybody, right? It depends on what resonates with you, what you have the capability of doing. If somebody wanted to do nothing but write to their legislator and tell them it's important to them, that's enough for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
so
right.
I'm kind of in the middle. I don't think it's all government and big business. I don't think it's all individual. It's kind of in the middle. You know, it's got to really, at this point, we really need everybody to do their little part, whatever it is that they feel inspired to do.
And what types of things can we all do to, I mean, you mentioned about advocacy and what have you, but when they go to these events, what things are people learning? Like, is it a case of, turn your lights off if you're not in the room? Or, I mean, is it as small as that or is it a lot larger?
Yeah. So it starts with those little things. What can we do in our household?
Okay.
And we just had a youth climate leadership program. And I think I ended up telling the kids a lot of what their parents already tell them. Save water, turn the lights off.
Okay.
But it was different because it was somebody else telling them.
I
don't know if your kid's the same way. If I say it,
the tap stays on until she turns it off or somebody else says it. Right.
But when somebody else says it and tells them, hey, it's good for the environment, right? We're saving resources and we're saving your parents' money. So some of it is simple things like that. When we started, there was a lot of government support and incentives. And part of our mission was letting people know, hey, there's these resources out there to help you go green, right? If you want to replace your grass with native plants, there's incentives you can take advantage of at the water district. So some of it was just connecting people to those resources, making people comfortable with electric vehicles, right? People aren't accustomed to it. So a lot of it is just education, youth programs. In October, we're planning a repair clinic. We're trying to take people back to the old school way of fixing things, using things as long as you can.
Okay.
So different things interest people. Some of the people who like gardening, we talk to them about composting or vermicomposting. You can compost your food waste and then create, food for your plants, right? So we try to make it fun, practical. And then for some people, they care more about the advocacy, right? They really want their government and the companies that they support to act on climate. And so it could be petitioning those entities, right? Telling them what's important to them. So we try to have something for everybody, because it's such a broad field, right?
So one thing that I was sort of like learning as you were sharing there was, I love the bit where you said, oh, we're going back and teaching folks so maybe you can repair something. So really, this isn't what your immediate thoughts of something like this is, we're pushing to be this full electric world, which I don't know if that's 100% right. I mean, there's a lot we've got to fix first, haven't we? But still, what you're talking about is all sorts of things. Like you mentioned about the garden, the composting and things like that. Even fixing things so you're not wasting them, throwing away, brand new. You may be keeping things in a longer period of time.
Yeah.
With that said, and then moving on to things like advocacy, are there particular special departments or part of the government that are measuring all these types of metrics and things to make a big difference? I mean, how the bigger picture that we generally won't see ourselves, but you may, what's going on behind the scenes there?
Yeah, so I'll give you a state example.
Okay.
Right? California has a law, SB 1383, requiring us all to dispose of food waste separately so it can be recycled, right? It's the organic food waste recycling law.
Sure.
So that's an example where the state is trying to move us towards sustainability. And when I explain people why, food waste causes methane emissions when
Sure.
it's just sitting there rotting at the landfill. And that's 80 times more potent than carbon emissions.
Right.
That's why we're all being asked to be more mindful of our food waste, right? So there's big initiatives like that. And we're lucky that in California, there's a lot of things like that trying to move us towards carbon neutrality and being more sustainable.
Right.
Yeah. Now, at the federal level, it's a different story.
Sure.
We're in interesting times.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to not mention it at all.
Right.
But, in the previous administration, we had so much support, so much investment in clean energy.
Right.
And, the new administration does not feel the same. So we're seeing
right.
the dismantling of some of those programs. And so I think there was a quote by somebody at a fossil fuel company, one of the big gasoline companies. And he mentioned that, these major shifts in government aren't good for any business, right? So a lot of companies were moving towards sustainability, because they were being encouraged, incentivized by the previous administration.
Right.
And we're seeing the undoing of some of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the idea now, so cool OC, obviously OC, it's Orange County, but you said it's throughout the country, isn't it? There's different areas everywhere, or is it mainly just here in California?
You mean like the sustainability initiatives?
Right. The programs that are out there right now.
Oh, for
so
cool
what you're doing,
so we're local. We focus on Orange County.
Okay.
We started in Irvine. We've expanded some work into Fullerton. That's when we partnered with you guys on getting some air quality feedback. We did some work in Anaheim, Buena Park, Santa Ana. So we're slowly starting to work with different cities as the opportunities present itself.
And how do you see that people are taking? Because obviously, is it people take it openly? They need a little bit more sort of like education on it. I mean, what's your feeling as you're moving through Orange County? How are people taking what you're trying to achieve?
I feel like people really respond well to it.
That's good.
Because you see environmental orgs, and a lot of it's been about conservation. We really try to focus on our lifestyle and how it impacts climate change.
Right.
And although our program is very broad, when I see people at our events, I see like a little light bulb go off.
Right.
It's like an aha moment, or this is so cool, or this is unique. When we had a block party and we brought neighbors together in the Woodbridge community in Irvine, people just thought it was really neat to have like a neighborhood event, to learn about, services available from the city, partner organizations, giving them resources on how to be more connected to the community and to be more sustainable.
And talking about sustainability, if somebody's looking at, to give you an example, I've got an electric car, right? And I didn't get an electric car, unfortunately, because I was sold on let's all go electric at the time. It was a lot of other bits and pieces.
Right.
But one of the things that I'm seeing as a huge challenge as somebody who does have a vehicle like that, it's charging.
Yeah.
Gas station, you pull up, 7 minutes later, you're gone, right?
Yeah.
There's loads of gas stations everywhere. You're talking about Irvine. I live in Irvine. There are some charging stations, but there aren't many.
Yeah.
What happens if we're going to move forward like this? That's a lot of sort of like infrastructure that has to be changed. What's going on about that area?
I think a lot of it has gradually changed already. Because I'm notorious. I have an electric vehicle too. And for me, there's pros and cons, right? And this one happens to be, there are many pros, but it also happens to be better for the environment to have less emissions.
Right.
And so those are the solutions we love at Cool OC. Things that are good for us, that are good for the environment.
Right.
And oftentimes, whatever's good for us is also good for the environment.
Sure.
If you're not using pesticides to grow food, better for the environment, better for us, right? But back to the EV thing, for me, it's so convenient just to plug in at night as you would your phone instead of having to drive to a gas station.
If you own a home.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're renting, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, I wasn't catching you out. It's just that it's really,
that's a completely fair point.
Really important,
Yeah. And so I think a lot of times it does require us to change. right? But this infrastructure that was created for individual cars to be driven, that had to be developed too.
Sure,
right?
sure. No, it was
We
two
didn't
things.
start out with all these roads. You know, as the infrastructure was needed, it was built. And we have to have that same mindset to, you know, the future clean energy and economy, right? That we have to adjust and change and grow with it. So I don't think anybody's saying everything just has to be shifted right away, right? But if we know that's better for us, let's start to move in that direction. And as I was saying, I'm notorious for forgetting to charge my car sometimes. But even I have noticed that I just use an app on my phone, and it's so easy to find an available charger, right? And the fast charger, the DC fast chargers, even those are more available. And so I just sit there, you know, 10 minutes, grab a cup of coffee, and then have enough for the rest of my day, and then charge the rest at home. But, you know, we do want it to be equitable, you know, have chargers available in multifamily units, right? That was a challenge I found back when I was moving around the pandemic. I needed a place that I could charge my car.
Sure.
And so I just, at the time, as just a quick measure, just ran an electric cord. My carport was right below. And I just charged using regular
Well, hey, what else can you do?
Yeah, but there were a lot of programs, and there are a lot of programs that governments can support. I think there's a lot of programs, even with the energy companies, you know, to be able to use incentives like these to make it available to everybody.
And that's a really great segue because, you know, obviously the energy companies, I mean, they are our infrastructure. And that's like you said, you know, it's not an overnight thing where somebody invented an electric car, then we're inventing how to charge it. And now the electrical company has to go along. I mean, I'm going to get the power over there. So how is that? You know, that's a huge change, isn't it? So how is that moving? Obviously moving forward, but, you know, where's the money come from for that? I mean, it's a huge task.
That's why it was so important that we saw so much support at the federal level because it starts there, it trickles down. People are able to offer programs. Companies that value sustainability and have a sense of corporate responsibility move that way. And then other times they're incentivized by the government to do that, right? So we know that fossil fuel companies, they've grown from federal support and subsidies and things like that. We want to see that same investment
coming back
into, you know, the clean energy future. And
that makes sense.
Clean energy sources.
That makes sense.
Everything, you know, just kind of transitioned due to what people valued, what government valued, what corporations valued. We would just like to see things moved in a little more socially responsible and sustainable way. So how does going back to the cities, because obviously, you know, it's a big deal because you've got a lot of working parts, haven't you, to move around? And what types of things are you seeing that at a city level is changing? Because that's our community, right? Whether it's, I don't know, maybe electric trash removing company vehicles or things like that. What sort of changes are you seeing at the city level? Oh, so I just saw, I think in Fullerton, a Fullerton school board member posted it, and I saw that they have like 8 electric new school buses. You know, so I think different cities are doing different things. Right. Cities, obviously, some have a deficit, some have a surplus, so that's a challenge. I know some cities, just like businesses, you know, had to recover from the pandemic. So it's just a combination of, you know, what kind of funding they have, what kind of programs residents are pushing their electeds for. And that's where the other side of the individual action comes, you know, talking to your elected officials about what's important to you, right? Whether it's, you know, more charging infrastructure or more incentives, right? So I know it's kind of different for every city. But I've seen based on the available funds and what kind of programs residents are pushing for, that's what I'm seeing happen at the cities.
Now, although, there's a whole sort of goal to this, but, regarding businesses, let's say, especially that's the restaurant industry, right?
Yeah.
So, they come under so much scrutiny anyway for rules and regulations. Your water has to be a certain temperature within so many seconds and all things like that, cooking and all that sort of stuff. In this world of, trying to save emissions, how difficult is that? Are you seeing it from your side of the table? How easy or difficult is it for restaurateurs to navigate through this field?
Right. That's a great question. Just from my own personal business experience, and then having seen my parents work at small businesses, being a child of immigrant parents, I understand the unique challenges that small business owners have.
Right.
And so I really would like to get past, sometimes the advocates and business, there's an adversarial relationship.
Sure.
Right? And one thing we really like to do at Coolsea is try to work more collaboratively, with government, with individuals, with local businesses. So when we had the block party, we engaged some local businesses and businesses that wanted to show that they want to give back to the community. And this happens right in your organization too, right?
Yep.
Different organizations want to show support for community initiatives. They give back in their own way.
Right.
So I don't like that adversarial relationship sometimes business has with advocates. I think sometimes we can all work together.
Sure.
And I have that sensitivity, understanding that small businesses, which is really the backbone of America, sometimes they have it the hardest, right? They're more vulnerable to fluctuations in the economy. And so I understand that some things do seem burdensome. And I'm all for trying to have mandates that are that fit the size of the organization, right? Bigger corporations can obviously do more.
Yeah.
You don't want to put that same burden on a new business that's just trying to make
close.
it.
Right.
Yeah. So I think, but I would also at the same time issue a challenge to businesses that sometimes you can use that social responsibility and use it to your advantage, right? People want to patronize. Our consumers are smart now, right? People want to patronize a business that cares about the community, gives back, right? That's the challenge I would issue to some of the small businesses. See if there's a way to use that, to further your business while doing good.
Now, is there a go-to sort of almost like a map, like if you're starting off, whether it's a restaurant or even it's just a service industry business, because there's lots of things you can do, changing your light bulbs, all sorts of bits and pieces, right? Is there a go-to place where people can get this advice or have somebody come in and help show them what they can do to be more aware rather than just left to the own person? Because on top of starting a business and everything else, now I've got to learn about that. I mean, is there places that people can go to find more about that out?
Yeah. So, I think different organizations try to offer different tools to businesses.
Right.
So if I think of Edison, there's a lot of resources for electrification, right? There might even be programs for small business.
Right.
Orange County Power Authority recognizes green businesses. They have a program that recognizes businesses that take certain steps to show that they're sustainable.
I think for a little while they were even sticking a charger outside your business. They were doing that for a little bit. Yeah.
So there's different agencies that you can check. You can also, of course, get a professional consultant that can take you through that. We like to also provide that service. We're pretty small, but we can consult on some, basic things.
Right.
And some of it people know, like everybody knows LED is, more efficient. So another win-win situation, right? Save energy, but also be sustainable.
Sure.
Same with water. So just to look at your operations, see where there's opportunities for savings. I understand sometimes, like in a restaurant, you can't interrupt the flow too much, right? Because you have to turn things around quickly.
Right.
The food waste recycling law, that's another one. For some, it's burdensome. Others, they've been able to find a way. Just a little shift in the operations just to save that.
Yeah.
Some give it to like a partner org that I know that does vermicomposting. So they
Right.
save it, somebody comes, picks it up, and then they give it to the worms. It creates compost, no emissions, right?
Right.
So I think there's a lot of opportunities for collaboration. Definitely check out what resources are out there.
Right.
If we could be a support, contact us too. We might know, or we might be able to help ourselves.
And do you have, because it's always great to have a showcase, isn't it? Do you have a particular area or business that you showcase, and it's almost like, I don't know if you could say 100%, but maybe as close as, where, yes, everything here is such and such, and this is the reason why, and where people can see that? Or
that would be, we would
imagine
love
that.
I know. We would love one day to be able to have a sustainability center, right?
Yeah,
we don't have
because that would
right
really
now.
help, like, with it working out.
Yeah, that is like our long-term vision, to have a place, to have a demo house.
Right.
I've been to, friends' house or enthusiasts, who have really gone through great lengths to make everything sustainable, right? But right now I just, think of like businesses that try to be sustainable, individual households, different cities are trying to reach, carbon neutrality. On the big business side, like Patagonia is a great example of, I think they've turned the organization to be exclusively for, addressing environmental issues. Right. So, hopefully there's more examples of people making a profit, but also doing good.
Right.
But we don't have a sustainability center yet. We would love to eventually.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Because that would really help with the education side. I can imagine that without a doubt.
Yeah.
Now, on that larger scale, because, it's, you have both sides to everything, don't you? So, if Orange County's trying its best to, put down its emissions and really be more aware of its surroundings, yet, middle of India, we're burning everything up, we're putting everything in the sea and all the rest of us, or wherever else it happens. What do you say to that? Well, are we really making a dent in this? I mean...
Well, I would say in the U.S., we do use a lot of resources. So usually we're the ones at the top, highest emissions. We did have a lot of clean energy projects. Hopefully those will continue.
Right.
And so, that's why climate change is hard to address sometimes, because it deals with like geopolitical issues and things like that. But I would just hope that I'll give you an example of cooperation internationally. One example I like to cite to my students in our youth program is that we had a hole in the ozone layer, right? Remember, somebody discovered it was like 1984 or something like that. And the whole global community signed a treaty to reduce CFCs, which was causing the thinning of the atmosphere and that hole in the ozone layer, right? So if in that situation, a country was saying, this country's using the most, I don't want to do it because of them.
Right.
That time people just knew, hey, we have to mobilize. It's our one home that we all share.
Right.
And we all have to act.
Right.
But there are issues like that. But, usually in the U.S., we tend to use a lot more resources than the average resident in some of the other countries. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to be, a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more smart with our resources because we've been lucky. Right. We have the ability to do all that.
Right.
So we're just trying to get people to be a little bit more, responsible so that we can leave a better future for our kids.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is, it's a lot of things is supply and demand, aren't they?
Yeah.
So do you feel that the suppliers who, light switches, whatever it is, or I mean, stuck in on electricity here, but we're on about other bits and pieces too. Do you feel that, like you said before, it always starts at the top. So if the federal government have got more eyes on something, then it trickles down and everybody's starting to look at it, you know, with things we purchase, for example. Maybe manufacturers aren't using certain plastics that give off these other emissions or things like that. Do you feel that there's a path that could be created and we all follow, or
Mhm.
are we miles away from that still? I
Yeah.
mean,
I wish it was that easy where,
yeah, well,
there's
no, I
this
know.
one direction. If we address that, it'll,
Right.
have a trickle effect. But we're just seeing people make impacts in many different ways.
Right.
Yes, federal support is certainly important, state support, local government support, all of that is important. But we've also seen companies that have, like I gave the example of Patagonia, they weren't asked to do that by the government.
They just started to do it themselves, didn't they?
That was just at the direction of the founders, right? And so I think that inspiration can come from many ways, right? Sometimes it's the government. Sometimes that's what's great about a free enterprise society, right? That creativity could come from so many different ways. It could come from an activist. It could come from the business sector. It can come in many different ways. But we're just trying to impress on people how important it is to protect the environment, right? Because, it's our home, it's our health,
right.
it's
When
the
you get
air
more
we
time
breathe,
in it, right.
It's our water, right?
Right.
And so it's hard sometimes because it seems so abstract, but it really does touch us all. Even though we weren't affected directly or right next to the LA fires,
sure.
That still
trickles down, doesn't it?
Affected the air we breathe.
Yeah.
People who weren't even immediately next to the burn area had to, watch their water supply.
Right.
And so, it affects the rest of us in terms of our insurance rates.
Sure.
Right? Homeowner insurance rates are going up. So
some insurances won't even insure you anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's got bad.
Insurance companies believe in climate change for sure.
100%. They pretend they don't, but they do for sure, don't they?
They do.
That's very true. That's
because
very true.
They're reacting. And if they believe it, something must be going on, So, I think that action has to come from every different area.
Now, that's a good point you just mentioned there, because, the fires there, a lot of those homes were very old. And you can't just change something in an old home without changing everything else, which becomes very costly.
Yeah.
What are the ideas to that? Is it, well, you can only do a little bit at a time? Is it, what happens with that type of situation?
Yeah. So, that's the tough thing. People have different abilities, right? But if it is an older home, and who knows if those changes would have even helped them, right?
Well,
they could be in a high burn area.
Sure.
But you've heard remarkable stories of people who, retrofitted their home, and it was like the one home that didn't burn.
Right.
And obviously that costs a lot of money.
Sure.
But, I did a disaster preparedness workshop after that.
Okay.
And we all know what we have to do. It's just human nature not to do it. So some of it we put it off. Having our emergency kit, making a plan. People can harden their home, remove debris away from, the immediate perimeter of the home so that doesn't catch on fire. There's home hardening things that people can do.
Right.
It's just human nature not to do it.
Right.
So I know even the Orange County Fire Authority, they do have a service, where you can look into how to harden your home, and they give you recommendations and things like that. People just don't know that stuff exists.
Sure.
And then we just have to, you always think, God, is that disaster going to strike me? Out of everybody.
Yeah.
But you just never know, right? So we're not even to answer your question, we're not even taking advantage of all the stuff we can do.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. So out of interest, now, to give you an example. So in the UK, one of the ideas is that people can save rainwater, for example, right? And you can use that to water your plants or gardens and things. But California, we've had a few rules with that. We can't do certain things. I mean, is that something that really may also be looked at in the future that might or would benefit us to change? Or is it's best, just leave it alone because of the, Western Isle virus or whatever that comes with the keeping water? I mean, how does it all fit in?
So I have a funny anecdote about that.
Right.
I knew a lady, and she got a rain barrel, the water that runs off your roof and it catches into the rain barrel, through the what do you call that? The easements. And her friend made fun of her, like, how much rain are you really going to catch here? We don't even get that much rain. But she managed to fill it up in like one rainy season, So there are many incentives by water districts to get rebates on rain barrels, even in
Really?
Southern California.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at
And
that.
there are some people who go as far. I have some friends in permaculture,
Mhm.
and they do like a gray water system where they recycle the water from like their laundry or dishwasher,
Okay.
just to water the plants outside. So there are some people doing that. It's just not like mainstream.
Okay.
But many of the water districts that I've seen around here do offer some kind of incentive to get rain barrel, even
there you
in
go.
dry California.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, though, isn't it? Like, like you say, every little bit helps, isn't it?
Yeah.
So no matter what you're doing something.
Right. And you'll notice the prices for all of it is going up, so it can save us money too.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
I mean, I had a leak in my faucet and I couldn't believe how much water I was losing.
You were losing,
I
right.
put a bucket there and, you think it's like a drop at a time.
Yeah, no,
I was
it
like,
builds up real quick,
I
doesn't it?
better get that fixed.
It's just like the kids leaving the tape on when they're doing the brushing the teeth.
Yeah.
And they just leave it running whilst they're walking around the house.
Yeah.
It adds up. So what's next for Cool OC?
So we are looking into some community gardens. We're talking to a site where we can maybe have plots for people who don't have a yard.
Oh, that's cool.
Maybe a place where we can kind of, do an exposition on this is what sustainability looks like.
So
tangible
we could save
examples.
some water.
Yeah.
And I like that.
And and when you asked me about that example, we do an eco fair every year.
Okay.
In June, and that ends up being a real great place for people to come to see the different things they can do.
Okay.
Until we could get a permanent site, but we try to make it fun.
Yeah.
We had great vegan food for people to try.
Sure.
And really connect people to the information because knowledge is power.
Of course.
But also, some people just love the community, right? Of being around people who care about the environment, care about nature. We also lead some field trips. But what's next for us, we're looking into some community garden sites, looking into some community composting. There's a lot of education that still has to be done about the organic food waste recycling.
Yeah.
So we really want to, provide that service to the community.
And would that also be, because it's almost like a big expo itself, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
So your waste foods going in the compost, are you regrowing vegetables or?
Yeah, it could be
You know what I
used
mean?
as plant foods. Yeah, make it like a circular.
We've saved a little bit of rainwater. It's, I mean, all right.
Yeah.
Right. You might not be able to feed the whole garden with it.
Yeah.
But you're saving still.
Yeah.
Solar, maybe some light, whatever. You could work alongside Orange County Power Authority, people like that, right?
Right.
Is that the idea, or you're just going out on it alone because you're the Lone Ranger?
Well, the community garden will have like a composting, gardening, growing your food emphasis.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because it's more of a garden.
Right.
But, we always have other workshops on many of those other topics you mentioned.
Right. And then who do you generally work alongside all the time? What other businesses are out there so people know who else to support?
Yeah. I mean, we've had great luck working with different cities.
Right.
And, depending on where we are working, we've even had dance studios donate, like free classes. Or a restaurant offering gift cards.
Okay.
So depending on where the event is, we've got a lot of community partners that will donate. We work closely with the water agencies, the waste agencies, the energy agencies. Anytime there's an opportunity to collaborate, come together for bigger impact. So I like to say we bring together a broad base and take more of a collaborative approach to environmental conservation.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, that obviously currently the current administration isn't paying as much attention as the past one did. And then obviously money's tight in California anyway. What are the challenges you're facing as an organization for funding? I mean,
Yeah. It's a tough time in different sectors, I know, as they're trying to work out the federal budget and things like that. But really, to be honest, there isn't a lot of support right now for environmental organizations and some community organizations. So I know grants are really tough all around for all community organizations.
Right.
Yeah. So we're having to, I've seen it when I was on the business side with the trade wars, and unfortunately, I'm in another industry that's
Another
also
trade
not
war.
really being supported,
Right.
But I hope people see that, investing in clean energy, we're using free energy from the sun and the wind, right? We don't have to drill and do all this. So I just want people to be open to the new technology and trying to be sustainable. Just because we've grown up doing a certain thing a certain way,
Right.
it doesn't mean it's the best way.
No, it's just what we're used to doing.
Yeah, we have to continue to grow and evolve. And with the advent of new technology, always look at it and think, is it sustainable? I think that's a big shift we have to do in the business world, right? Or in different organizations, right? And I would like to give AI as an example.
Sure.
Because I know everybody's very excited about AI, right? But that's another area where it's really growing. We don't have enough legislation really to grow it. And it uses an incredible amount of water and energy to run. So we're all excited about AI. There's no laws to control the ethics of it.
Sure.
Right? That's not catching up to it.
Right.
And then we're not thinking about the environmental consequences of it. So I'm hoping that we break that cycle.
Right.
When there is new technology, we have to think, what's the long-term effects? How does it impact equity? Is it available to everybody? How's it going to impact everybody? Is it going to impact everybody equally? Will everybody be able to benefit? So we really have to think about equity and, the environmental and long-term sustainability of the thing, right? I walked into my urgent care office and already the nurse was taking notes with AI.
Really?
It's pervasive.
It's just what it is now.
Yeah, it's just everywhere, So I just always try to remind people, please, think of what's involved for that. Those data centers use so much energy and water.
Right.
There's towns in Texas where people are being told, take shorter showers, but
really?
the data centers are using all the water.
So it's almost like the nut farming up the north of California that used to drain all the water then. We're all the same. So for those who don't really know that, because AI is new.
Yeah.
Why are they using so much water? Is it just because of electricity or is it to do with cooling systems? Why are they using so much?
For those huge data centers to stay cool, they use water and they also use energy for the fans.
Okay.
I don't know the whole technology of it, but I've just learned that technology requires a huge amount of resources.
I see.
Yeah. So
they're pulling a lot from the grid and everything else. I see. Okay.
So we really got to think about fairness, about who's using all these resources, right? Who's paying for it all?
Right.
Is it being subsidized by public dollars?
Right.
So having all that be explored before we just jump into new technologies, which has a lot of promise if used well. Right?
Yeah. No, you're right. No, you totally understand. And there are a few. I don't think that it's like you say, because it happens so quick.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to play catch up with it.
Right.
We have one of our local senators on a little bit, Senator Tom Omberg, and he is on a committee, but they're looking at how far or to regulate these IA companies as to are they being fair with the knowledge that they're using to determine whether, let's say, somebody got insurance whatsoever.
Yeah.
But that's how far they've got. What you're talking about is, well, we didn't really think that far, so we have to keep playing catch up with this stuff, isn't it, really?
Yeah. If we build it right, then we don't have to go back and
it's very, very fast.
Right?
Right. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So, as we're sort of wrapping up today's major area, just before I ask you the question is there anything we missed or you wanted to mention? Going back to funding a little bit, being an organization, the only way to continue to push out to change the world for a better place is you do require funding. So as that's deteriorating, how, as you as an executive director, how are you finding funding? Is it a case of, well, we're looking for corporations to help out or partners? Well, what's going on in that side?
Yeah, so we're in the first year of this huge shift at the federal level.
Okay.
And so it hasn't been as bad. I have heard of partner orgs getting grants canceled.
Right.
And really hard to see it, it's a hard time for community workers. You
Sure.
know, they work the hardest, they get paid the least, they're out there serving the community, and we have less resources to do that now.
Right.
I was just telling a friend that I feel like in this first year, you're seeing like local government or states supplementing whatever's lost in terms of federal grants, right? We just had some raised beds we were going to get, and I got told that the federal cuts impacted the county, so we can't get it anymore, right? And those were going to go into underprivileged schools. So I think in this first year, I think it's being supplemented in other areas. If it continues, I think the next 3 years will be hard for certain industries who are not getting the support. So we're just trying to diversify as you would in business, fundraise creatively. It's really hard to raise money for environment because there's so many other pressing issues.
Right.
We're talking
so it keeps
about
getting pushed down, doesn't it? Right.
And that's kind of why we're where we're at, because it keeps getting pushed away.
Right. And then you start all over again.
Yeah.
Right.
And I certainly get that there are so many pressing issues that people are facing right now. I get that. But if we don't kind of take care of the environment and we keep pushing it back, we're all going to suffer its impacts, whether it's extreme weather, less resources, extreme heat, superstorms. It's going to come back one way or another. So it's just a little bit of ounce of prevention.
Sure.
It's a pound of cure. Is that a British
saying?
Probably.
It sounds like you with a pound of cure.
Yeah. So we're just trying to be, creative in our fundraising, tightening our belt. We already run pretty lean.
Right.
We're a small organization.
We all have to now, don't we?
Yeah. So it's just trying to, go with the times, diversify, be very conservative, right?
And so, for those listeners today who've suddenly had an epiphany and thought, oh, well, maybe I could do something. What could I do?
Yeah.
Where can they go, whether it's your website or whatever, to find out a little bit more, to educate themselves a little bit more further into what we've discussed today?
Right. Definitely check our website, cooloc.org. CoolOC on Instagram was taken. So on Instagram, we're Cool Green Cities.
Okay.
Yeah. But our website really talks about some of the different programs that we do. We invite, community partners, leaders, organizations, business. We love to work together with everybody. That's our mission.
Right.
Bring everybody together, not have everybody work against each other in silos, because we're all working towards the same goal of protecting this home for everybody. Certainly reach out if we could be a resource on sustainable changes you can make to your home or business. We're happy to help. If we don't know the answer, we usually know who we can direct you to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or if somebody's looking to help you build a resource center, then just reach out to you, give you a little call there.
We are great at what are they called? Public-private partnerships?
Yeah. No, I think that would be great. I can we are missing that if you think about it. All the things we have, that would be a good one. That would be a good one.
Right.
So we've got to the area of the episode today, Patty, where we give the guests a mic free time, where instead of asking questions, maybe there's something we've missed today, maybe there's some type of statement you would like to share with everybody. So I just wanted to give you that moment.
Yeah. So I'll just repeat my mantra, which is, do what you're inspired to do, whether it's small or large. If you asked me when my kids were young to do all this sustainability stuff, I would have said there's no way, right? But I think the key is that everybody just pay attention to the environment, pay attention to the policy, and just see how it's going to impact you, and just take whatever little action you feel motivated to take. And come hang out with us. We're fun. We have good, plant-based dishes at our events. People try it and they're like, wow, this is a lot better than I thought it would be. We go on field trips to bring people closer to the environment. There was a study that said we're 60% less closer to the environment than we were 200 years ago.
Right.
That distance between us and nature is widening, right? So go out and enjoy nature, right?
That's just true.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's so healing, right? And the third thing I would say is, a lot of the technological advances and we're working harder than ever, but are we happier? And, try to think maybe we can slow things down a bit, right? Do things more sustainably for us, for our business, for our organization. My last pitch for the environment and sustainability would be those things.
Well, good for you. That's awesome. Well, thank you so very much for coming on today. Really do appreciate it. And listeners, if you're wanting to know more, visit cooloc.org. And of course, if you're not quite sure, you can always reach out to the Chamber. We can pass on telephone numbers and things like that. So, Paddy, thank you very much for coming today.
Yeah, thank you for indulging me.
Of course, it's been interesting. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Chamber Talk. Until next time, stay inspired and connected by visiting nocchamber.com and selecting sign up for news at the homepage. For more interviews, visit chambertalk.podbean.com.